What's up, you guys? What is up, you guys? We are back for a brand new episode of the Ask Alex Show. I am out of captivity, out of the sunken place. Thank God.
Yeah.
I am back in my favorite studio that I've created. By the way, I'm going to change this background at some point in my life, but I could not do this show without my two amazing co-hosts, Mr. Jeremy Branch from It's Not Even Movies Are Terrible Anymore. What's it called again? It's
the pop culture nihilist, baby.
And it's not the controversy anymore. It's just Ian Elliott Carter. How
just
are you
me.
guys doing?
Doing great,
I'm
man.
Good. So for those of the folks at home that watch the YouTube channel that do not follow any of us on social media, we had our first official meet and greet of each other. There was nobody else invited. If you're watching the show, though, this was a members only situation. We closed the circle. We all met down in Orlando, had a couple drinks, had a little bit of food, and I gave both these motherfuckers COVID.
That's how we party here in Florida, baby.
Yes.
That's not necessarily true, though.
Well, I don't know.
All I know is we had a great time that Sunday. We all hung out. And then, like that next day, me and Ian found out we had COVID. I was like, what in the world is going on?
If I would have died that night seeing you guys, my life would have been complete. So that's good. Like
stop.
The last thing I saw was just my brothers. Oh, I can die now. Fuck my family.
Yes. It was dope. And this was the first of many meetings. So I can't wait for us to do that. Sure. Again, but yeah, we had a good time reaching out with one another. And by the way, before we jump into the show, thank you guys for reaching out to me. I want to thank my bros who were with me for reaching out to me, checking up with me during this whole time. I am back in a great spot now, so I'm definitely going to do this regularly with them and just my own content as well. So there's a lot of stuff I'm going to be putting out in the next few weeks and months and things to come now that I'm on.
Hashtag get Alex a date for my wedding.
I think I might have one. I haven't asked yet, but I think I might have one.
All right.
Oh, well. By the way, I can't wait. Oh, are you live streaming your wedding this year or no?
This year.
I mean, not this year. I'm sorry. I meant to say. Are you? I meant to say this.
I don't know yet. I'm thinking about it, but if I don't next year, I'll definitely do it.
That was my bad.
Oh, that was great.
But you guys know what to do. If this is your very first time watching this show, I'd like to welcome you to Momentum Media. Thank you for being a part of this little funny, wacky family that we got going on. But if you want your question or topic on this show, all you have to do is just send me an email at theaskalexshow@gmail.com. That's the Ask Alex Show @gmail.com. If you send your topic or question on the show, more than likely it will definitely be answered on the show. Today's Memorial Day, so clearly a lot of y'all are probably still hungover or about to get hungover. So I hope you guys take that time to watch us here on YouTube. And if you cannot watch us on YouTube, we are also on Spotify. So if you can't watch us while you're drinking your alcohol, you can listen to us while you guys get drunk on Spotify. Just type in the Ask Alex Show. I'm the only person on Spotify with that name, and you can listen to this updated podcast with this episode. Now that we've gotten everything out of the way, it's so funny. I haven't done this show in so long. It's kind of getting back into the groove of this. Let's get into our first topic of today. And our first topic comes from a Mr. Dane. He did not include his last name, so I don't know what his last name is. His name is Dane or Dan. It's spelled D-A-N-E. But he writes, "Hey Alex, glad to see you guys are doing well. I'm glad to see you are back in your own little spot. But I do have a question. I've noticed that the MCU is slacking this last couple years. I understand that we've been through a pandemic, but the highlight of the MCU during the pandemic was only Spider-Man No Way Home. I felt like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was a big letdown within the MCU, and I think their Disney Plus stuff is okay, but most of it is misses. Do you think that Kevin Feige is losing his grip on the MCU, and do you think the MCU is slipping on pop culture?" Well, thank you for your question, Dane. This actually a very interesting question for me because I think out of all of the three of us, I actually enjoyed Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness a little bit more than you guys. But I mean, I'll say this. I don't really think the pandemic necessarily has much to do with it because those stories were already pre-planned before these events kind of happen. I think the problem was more so just execution in terms of directing and then, and also producing and all this other stuff. I will agree that everything that has come out that I've enjoyed so far has been like Moon Knight, Spider-Man No Way Home, WandaVision, and even Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Now I want to point out, I see why people don't like that movie because there's a lot of stuff going on that you kind of have to rewatch to kind of make some sense out of it. But I liked it for what it was. But to answer your question directly, do I feel like Kevin Feige is losing his grip? I can't really say that. I think that he's in transition, meaning that he's trying to tell different type of stories and include different elements like the multiverse, because for so many years, we've gotten teased about the multiverse, but we've never actually gone into the multiverse. And I'm not saying that they did it properly this go around. I think maybe the best way they've done it was probably with Spider-Man No Way Home. Even that is a little debatable because Peter Parker is looking at three different versions of him that look completely different. But when you look into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Benedict Cumberbatch is the same person, just darker or different or more of an asshole. So like I can understand why certain things are off. And then I can also understand that, them including something like the Illuminati, spoiler alert, if you have not seen the movie, and you have these different iterations of characters. I mean, I don't believe that Black Bolt or Professor X or even Mr. Fantastic should have died so easily, but it happened. And Wanda's just this walking being, and then all of a sudden she just dies because she sees another version of herself that just basically consoles her. I mean, I get there's a lot of things that are going on that don't make sense. But for me, I just think he's in transition and he's telling these different types of stories and making, I guess, the comic books come more alive. Now, I like what's been going on Disney Plus. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like I said, I didn't really like Loki too much, but I liked the end result. I loved Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I did feel like it was a drop off beyond WandaVision, because I like WandaVision even more. Love Moon Knight. I even love how Moon Knight ended, but if I'm being honest, I have a lot of questions about where Moon Knight takes place. So yes, and Hawkeye, I hated Hawkeye. I mean, I like the Kingpin being introduced, but every episode of Hawkeye was pointless for me. So I hated that show. But other than that, I can honestly say the MCU, they are expounding on characters that somewhat don't make any sense, but I understand what Kevin Feige's trying to do. He's teasing a new Avengers or young Avengers, or teasing a different type of character. So Ian actually has a great opinion about this particular subject. So Ian, I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to debunk some of the things you said, though. You said you were confused about Spider-Man having variants that didn't look like him, and then everybody in Doctor Strange looks like. Well, Loki, they kind of showed that some variants look alike and some of them don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember, the President Loki looked exactly like him, but then you had a female Loki. So
yeah, alligator Loki.
I think that's what they were showing, that the rules, like, not all of them are going to look alike. You didn't mention Shang-Chi, though. I thought that was one of the best.
Oh yeah, I love Shang-Chi. That's the best one, or one of the best ones.
Shang-Chi and Spider-Man No Way Home are the greatest from this phase. But other than that, no, I kind of agree. Like, these are great movies. Don't get it twisted, but there's some that are better than others for sure. I kind of wish Marvel, and people are gonna disagree with that because we're meth heads to Marvel, but I kind of wish they would have just waited like maybe 5 years. The pandemic had us waiting 1 year and people were still itching. But like, I don't know, we just got like literally the best Marvel movie of all time, Endgame. If you don't even believe that, you can agree that some of the best scenes in a superhero movie of all time in Endgame. We're spoiled. We have every person in a movie. And now it seems like we just care about the cameos over the story. And that kind of annoys me sometimes, because I'm all about the story. That's one thing I liked about Marvel over DC. They were telling better stories. Especially someone that grew up liking DC more than Marvel. But I thought they nailed it. Kevin Feige is amazing. He's great at his craft of conducting everything together. But I'm with some of you guys. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Doctor Strange. I liked it. Don't get me twisted. I just want to know where they're going with it, I guess. Like, I feel like this is now kind of getting to the middle of the road where, like, all right, we got to come to some kind of like, what's the next thing? At least when we were dealing with like the Infinity Saga, we had breadcrumbs of Thanos and where this was going.
Right.
We've only had one like Kang thing, and then that's it. So I don't know where it's going with it. Yeah. I do feel a little bit of fatigue. I was actually looking at what's came out and what's going to come out. And it's like we don't really have any time to breathe. We got the Marvel shows, then the movie, Marvel show, movie. Yeah. I kind of miss like just waiting like 2 years of a Marvel movie. I kind of missed that a little bit just because it gave me room to talk. Now I do love Moon Knight. Like I said, I do love Spider-Man No Way Home. I do love Shang-Chi. Loki was dope to me, and WandaVision as well. But to be honest with you, with the guy's question, I do think there are movies that are not Marvel movies. Like, for example, Everything Everywhere All at Once. To me, the best movie of the year. I think that kind of proved that if you support stuff like that, we'll get more of that. You know, but people are just prone to just going to the superhero movies. Right. Give the other movies a chance, like that one. I'm telling you, it's better than any superhero movie that's came out this year. If we keep supporting stuff like that, not saying don't support superhero movies because we still want to see it, but you support more of those independent, original ideas, the studio's gonna be like, okay, we need more of that. So it's kind of up to us at the same time. So that's my answer to that. I have a question, but I want to hear Jeremy's take first.
Oh yeah, Jeremy, what's your take on Kevin Feige losing his step with Marvel?
Hey, all I know is I agree with so much of what Ian said, but the whole time he was talking, all I could think about is how much I wanted some turkey thigh. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wow.
Wow.
Hell nah.
All right, sorry.
Wow.
What was the question?
Oh wow.
No, I'm playing. I got it. I think Ian had a lot of great takes. I actually echo a lot of what Ian was saying. Alex, you bring up some good points too, including that comic book movies feel like they're getting more accurate to comic books. And I don't necessarily know that for me, that's not necessarily what I want out of my comic book movies. You know, it's been well noted that comic books and movies are two different mediums. Yes, what I really liked about what Marvel has done historically is they were able to take elements of the comic books and then transcribe them to the medium of film and still keep the core of the characters, but work it into the film medium, where a lot of stuff that happens in comic books, in my mind, doesn't work as well in the medium of film. And we're starting to get to that point, where, for example, I love No Way Home. I think it's a very fun movie. But there's like questions about the spell. When they deleted Spider-Man's memory, did it delete all of the videos from him off of YouTube? Did it like Happy remembers Aunt May, but not Spider-Man? So what happens in those parts of the timeline when the two
Morbius
of them were
brings
together?
Up more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets so obtuse and it's also been said, you know, this all started with a guy in a cave who built himself a suit of armor. And at that time, that was the most fantastical element. And now it's just all over the place. And to Ian's point, the first phase of MCU all the way through Endgame, it was like you're laying a foundation and then you're building upward in this triangle, in this pyramid. Now it just seems like we're laying bricks around all over the place that may or may not build up to something that's like a peak, right? Like I feel like we don't know where things are going. I feel like Marvel is kind of just throwing things out there and seeing what sticks, and then they're planning on building that. But to the concept of this being a transitional time for Marvel. I agree with that. I feel like they're trying to figure out what their next in game is.
Exactly.
And for me, it kind of just feels like they're spinning their tires. So I've liked all of the new Marvel stuff. I've liked it. I just like it less than I did when Captain America and Iron Man were in it. And you know, there's a lot of reasons why, but that's where it all started. We took this huge journey, and then that journey ended. And now we're just kind of jumping on board for a sequel. And sequels are, you know, if you like the first one, a lot of times there's things in the sequels that you like, but the sequel's never as good as the original. So while I like what Marvel's doing, I just like it a little less than I did before.
Yeah, I agree, because I like how you set that up. Like, we started out a man in basically in a bunker building a suit of iron, and then we've gotten to exactly. We've gotten to a place where we have wizards like destroying the multiverse. Like we have that going on. And you know, you brought up a really good point, Ian, when he brought up the Morbius thing, like that end credit scene of Vulture just showing out of nowhere in the Sonyverse.
It contradicts everything.
It has. Yes, there's a lot of weird things going on in the MCU that don't necessarily make sense, but I do agree with both of these guys that yes, they're in transition, but at the same time, I do feel like they're just trying to figure out where can we stick these things. Like, okay, Doctor Strange doing this, Spider-Man's doing this. People forget Peter Parker, but they remember Spider-Man. I don't know how you could disassociate the two. That doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But I am interested to see what Kevin Feige is leading to. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Kevin Feige is losing his step with the MCU? Do you think?
Hold on, I want to ask also. Okay. Sorry, but Ian, you said you had a question that you wanted to ask before we moved on.
Yeah. So you guys have the internet, right?
No, never heard of it.
Never heard of it. So, if you happen to have the internet, just type Star Wars and see what happens. Especially on type Disney Star Wars in particular. But a lot of people, since Disney's bought Star Wars, it's been like in the fandom, it's just the craziest thing ever. People hate The Last Jedi. People like me, I love The Last Jedi. I do not like Rise of Skywalker. People hate Rise of Skywalker. They've just been bashing how Disney has handled Star Wars. They're just not fans of anything to do with it. But then we hear stories like The Mandalorian or Ahsoka or stuff like that. And people are liking it. It's getting a lot of positive feedback. I, for one, love the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But my question to both of you is, take away the movies. We're just talking about television. Is Star Wars actually doing better when it comes to television than Marvel?
Okay. If we're just judging upon what's been released on television, I'm not going to even include Boba Fett in this conversation because I think that's probably the weakest. But if we're talking,
I'll argue with you. Boba Fett might be better than Falcon and Winter Soldier, though.
Okay, so yeah, I would say that to an extent. Like if you're talking episode 3 from Boba Fett and forward, because
we're talking the shows versus the shows. Okay, it down too much.
Okay, if we include Boba Fett into this conversation, I would say that yes, Boba Fett is probably better than I would say it's better than Hawkeye. I like Boba Fett more than Hawkeye, but I love the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian.
Me too.
I actually like, and now if we're also including all of Star Wars TV that we've seen, they did put out.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about because we could do that with Marvel as well. We're gonna talk about like MCU based, since Disney Plus came out.
That's what I'm talking about. Just the Disney Plus stuff. I'm not talking about
gotcha.
Clone Wars. I'm not talking about Clone Wars or Rebels. Just what they have put out for Disney Plus. I think in the less amount of content that they've put out, I do think it's better because, like, okay, I set my alarm for Mandalorian and even Boba Fett. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was excited for it, but I felt like I saw that whenever I was comfortable to see it. Mandalorian kept me guessing. WandaVision kept me guessing. That's why I loved it. Everything else after that has not kept me. I've never felt that guessing factor except for Moon Knight because I wanted to see what happened next. But everything in between, Hawkeye didn't really feel that way. Loki didn't really feel that way. Falcon Winter Soldier, there were some hit and misses. But for me, if we're just talking Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and what's come out on Disney Plus for Star Wars, I would say yes, they have hit it out of the park harder than I feel than Marvel has.
Interesting.
What about you, Jeremy?
So while I definitely can see where y'all are coming from, and Mandalorian is undeniably great, this is just the other side of this argument. Marvel is laying these foundational pieces everywhere, like I just now said, with their new phase of stuff. That can be said about Moon Knight, Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're reestablishing a new Captain America. WandaVision, we're pushing forward Wanda's storyline so that she can get to Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
Star Wars, with the exception of Mandalorian, we just keep going backwards. We just keep on going back to the greatest hits and doing the things that we already know. And when you said, mentioned about how shows are keeping you guessing and keeping you engaged, like WandaVision, for me, there is no mystery left in this little pocket of the Star Wars universe. It's like even Obi-Wan, as you said, Ian, the first two episodes are awesome. Like, I really like it. I think it's great television. I also feel like, and this is not the first time this has been said, but the galaxy far, far away is so vast and so big that the fact that we're not taking more chances feels like a missed opportunity, where everything Marvel does is propelling the narrative forward. Star Wars is afraid to push the narrative forward because we saw what happened with Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. Every time they try to move forward, these Star Wars purists want to pull back and reel it back in to where, like, if Luke Skywalker's not in it or there's no lightsabers in it, is it really Star Wars? So
that's what, I don't mean to interrupt you too, but that's
please.
what Lucasfilm needs to do. They need to just stop listening to them. I did like Last Jedi because it was different, but I do feel like you're right. They need to start doing their own thing and stop listening to these people. What you said about Star Wars is afraid to move forward, you're right. We're over here back in between episode 1 and 2. It's weird.
Yeah.
Marvel is, they're focusing on the future. No matter if we just agree, like, we don't understand where it's going, but they're trying. I get that too. So I get what you're saying too. Like, we keep going back. I do want to see the future. I do want to see where you got a whole universe to expand with, kind of like Dragon Ball. Use it.
Yeah.
So Alex is coming down on the Star Wars side. I'm coming down on the MCU side. Ian, break the tie. What say you, bro?
Oh, well, shoot. When it comes to the shows, I think I actually am going to go with Star Wars.
Okay.
Movies, hands down, Marvel. Hands down.
Right. Hands down, Marvel.
Not even close. But,
but
when it comes to the shows, though, the quality and the writing, though, I think Star Wars is doing a little bit better.
Oh, definitely. And I agree with that. My criticism with the show, I feel like, why is Tatooine like the vocal point every time we go to these shows? Like, it's just a one big dusty planet. So yes, I actually agree with that. But also, I'm going to throw it to you guys. What do you guys think about Ian's question about essentially what is the better Disney Plus show from either Lucasfilm or Marvel, shows in terms of what they put out? Me and Ian side with Star Wars. Jeremy's on this island by himself with Marvel. So what do you guys
I'm sure
think?
he won't be alone.
Oh, definitely jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, now that we've gotten that out of the way, you guys, let's jump into the last question of the day. And the last question comes from, I would say, the star of Ask Alex, Miss Iris. Peoples. She is amazing. By the way, during the whole time I was taking my little break, she kept messaging questions and checking on me, asking how I was doing.
Is that your date for my wedding?
No, Iris. Iris lives in another part of the country, so I have no idea I know what she looks like now, but I have not reached out to her in that particular way.
Let's just move on. Let's get to the question.
That is very odd, but yes,
keep her asking questions.
Let's get to her question before
that would be her next question. Alex, where you go to? I'm sorry. Go
exactly.
Ahead,
this is getting. I'm gonna cut this out, by the way, Iris. But anyway, she writes, "Hey guys, so during the midst of all of the MCU, Star Wars, and DC craze, I'm seeing that Hollywood is lacking some form of originality. I noticed that throughout the course of the last couple of years, most movies that have come out have been MCU, Star Wars, or DC or Warner Brothers related. However, I do feel as a fan of film, I do want to see more original IP. Do you think that Hollywood is lacking an original IP when it comes to the theaters?
Dang, did I already answer that one? I'm sorry, guys.
I mean,
a little bit.
But we're definitely going to touch on that. But thank you for your amazing question, Iris. Please forget all that weird stuff that we were talking about earlier. Okay, so okay, so Iris, I'm very eager to hear my bros' opinions about this, but I want to address your question by saying that yes, I do feel as though that there is a stigma, if you will, of some theaters, or not theaters, studios, not willing to put enough energy, money, and time and resources to original IP because they don't believe it could probably blow as maybe the MCU or Star Wars or Harry Potter, things of that nature. The MCU has been established, so they can make an Eternals movie and people are going to watch it because it's MCU. They can make Guardians of the Galaxy because we're going to watch it because it's the MCU. Same thing, even with DC, they can make 50 Batman movies. We're going to watch it because it's Batman. It's in the DCU. Same with Harry Potter. You have these Fantastic Beasts movies. I've seen one, but I hear that most of them are like trash. So
mediocre at best.
Exactly. In comparison,
Johnny Depp, you're not missing anything.
No.
Exactly. Justice for Johnny. Oh man. But yes, like they make these movies knowing that this stuff is going to happen, going to at least blow at the box office. But I want to put this in perspective with you guys. Studios are looking for original IP. I will say they are fearful in terms of putting the resources into it because of, not a lot of people support it. And also, let's be honest. Some of the original IP that they have put out over the years, not all of it's great. Some of it's really great, like what Ian mentioned earlier. Everything all at once. I think there should be sequels and stories after that, right? Because I enjoyed that movie too, but we didn't go out and really support it like we did, like Doctor Strange. However, I want to put this in perspective. Yes, there is a lack of originality, if you will, but there's only like maybe 11 or 12 comic book movies that come out within a year. And I'm going to go ahead and include Star Wars into that as well. Everything else after that, all of those are original movies. Now, I'm not saying that they make the same amount of money as those movies. There's no way that happens. But we do get a lot of original dramas, action movies, sci-fi, some sci-fi movies, things of that nature. I guess to fill in the placeholder. But I also want to point out and just think about this, Iris, and you guys as well. The biggest movie in the world right now, box office wise, is an original IP. That movie is Avatar. That movie is the biggest movie in the world that's based off nothing at all. Just James Cameron's thoughts.
Yep.
And that is the biggest movie.
Pocahontas in space isn't really original, but I get what you're saying.
Right. But it's like for instance, prior to it coming out, I don't remember any source material coming out for Avatar.
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
So like that is the biggest movie in the world. So I want to point out that studios want to get to a Avatar franchise where they don't necessarily need to rely on source material. The reason why the MCU is doing so well, and keep in mind, most of the movies that come out are not necessarily comic book. They're not really taking everything from the comic books, but the reason why they're relying it so well is because they make great stories. And I can also make the argument that a lot of these like movies like Shang-Chi, nobody knew who Shang-Chi was. I can argue that's a very original Marvel superhero movie. Like I only read about Shang-Chi in Avengers comic books, but Shang-Chi comic books, I didn't read. Like I didn't even know he had a comic book. So I can say that Hollywood is diversing their catalog of movies. However, I just want to keep this in mind. The biggest movie on the planet is an original movie based off no source material. If you look at Disney, majority of their Pixar movies are either based off rides, but prior to their rides, have no source material. Toy Story, I don't remember reading a story about Toy Story before a Toy Story movie. So, like a lot, Turning Red, same thing. I don't remember reading anything about like a story before that movie came out. So, yes, there's original IP out there. It's up to us, though, to support it. So, Jeremy, what do you think about this question? Do you think that there's some original IP out there that's just as good or better than than the norm? And do you think that Hollywood is essentially cowards not putting the same type of energy into original IP than they do what's familiar?
At this point, we insert the John Campea rant where he talks about how there's more original movies being made now than any other time.
By the way, if you're watching, please drop a comment, John. But go ahead.
Yeah. What's up, John? He has been in the chat. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So, which was amazing, by the way. What a cool feeling. He's the godfather of this stuff. But yeah, I think that what he said is accurate. I also think that there's a couple of factors to consider. Just because there's more original content being made now than ever before, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of that content's making its way to the movie theater, right? We've got streaming, so a lot of mid-budget romantic comedies, action movies, things that used to be viable in the theaters are now going directly to streaming services. Everything from a movie like Extraction with Chris Hemsworth to I don't have another example like that. Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. I know that was like a Peacock. I think it might have went to the theaters also, but so you got to consider that the movie theater, the Cineplex, is oftentimes going with the sure bet, kind of to Alex's point, is like they are risk averse and they know that intellectual property is going to excite moviegoers and drive them to the audiences to pay for the popcorn. That's why so many of these movies are like 3 hours long now, is because they want to keep you in there because they make their money on concessions. It's not exactly like a pound for pound thing, but it certainly helps sales that way. When you're like, all right, we're buckling in because we're going to be here from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to freaking 7 p.m. I'm going to need some popcorn. I'm going to need some drinks. So you've got the fact that a lot of the movies that make their way into the theaters are based on intellectual properties. Alex, to your point, Avatar, undisputable original. Also to Ian's point, I mean, it's kind of Fern Gully or The Last Samurai.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But it's James Cameron is the brand. James Cameron is the intellectual property. When you talk about Turning Red and a lot of the original Pixar movies that have come out, yes, they are original, but the intellectual property, the brand is strong with Pixar. So there's always some larger entity attached to these surefire successes that it's like, okay, Avatar was an original, but James Cameron he's James Cameron. He did Titanic, he did Aliens. I mean, go down the list. So even the most even the biggest shining examples of non-IP related filmmaking, there's a lot of times a reason why they do as well as they do. Then there's this thought of scaling, right? Like if you pay $500 million to make and advertise and distribute a movie and it makes $1 billion, that's amazing. If you look at a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once that costed, I don't know, $50 million to make, and it turns around and makes $500 million, well, that's a way bigger profit. I mean, it might not be as much. It didn't make as much money, but it essentially profited more money because it costs less money to make. So the stakes aren't as high. And the reason why I say that is because we do go, like when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, from week to week to week, it was growing in box office dollars. It was doing better and better. And that is unheard of. Normally a movie like Batman or Multiverse of Madness, it's going to drop between like 40 to 60% from week 1 to week 2. So there's these little movies like The Northman that came out this year that I thought was phenomenal. And it doesn't have to make as much money to still be viable. So I don't really care about the Everything Everywhere All at Once sequel. I just want another Everything Everywhere All at Once type movie. And yes, there is a whole lot of intellectual property stuff hitting the movie theaters. I think that's undeniable. However, there are other platforms that you can watch the stuff that isn't that. And then when the stuff that hits the theaters that isn't that comes, as Alex said, you support it. But there is a tendency to focus on, and obviously so, focus on the things that you see the most. So if every time you turn on a TV, you see a trailer for a Marvel movie, and then you go in to watch the Marvel movie and there's trailers for the same Marvel movie, like eventually it becomes more present in your mind that you kind of push to the side all of the smaller things. But I ask that next time you go see a movie, just make a mental note of all of the ones that aren't Marvel, DC, and Star Wars, and see if you start to pick up on the fact that there is other stuff out there. It's just not fighting for your attention quite as hard.
Yeah. And I agree. It's, it's not fighting for your attention quite as hard. And I agree. But also I do think as the viewer, if we are constantly preaching, we want more original IP, we do have to make the effort to actually look for it. Yeah. Because there are theaters that put out, there are indie movies that come out in theaters that we have no idea that they're out.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
So we have to make the effort to actually look for it. So Ian, I've seen you address this topic early in the show, somewhat, but I've seen you address this topic before. Do you think that Hollywood is lacking originality, and do you think that they're cowards, or do you think that we as the viewers have to make the effort to just look for what's coming out?
The answer is yes, all the above, sir. But before I go, before I answer this question, I would love to go to like a film festival with you guys. We just go on a field trip and just watch a whole bunch of original movies that don't get a lot of attention, because that's on my bucket list. I would love to go to a film festival. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of everything. Like it's our job, if that's what we want to see, like on the billboards or keep coming toward us, because Jeremy made a good point. Like if you don't even like Marvel movies or Star Wars movies or DC movies, you're going to see the ads everywhere anyway. You're going to see them on TV. You're going to see them on billboards. You're going to see them in the movie theater. They really are pushing these more than they are pushing the original stuff. So yeah, that is a little bit of the studio's fault, because they're scared a little bit to put out the original ideas. They're playing it safe. But on the other end of that, as I said, everything everywhere all at once, when you support something like that and show the studio, look, this is good. This is A+ work. We want more of that. Then the studio gets a little bit more comfortable. Like, you know what? Let's try another original idea. It's a group effort. It's a group effort. But at the same time too, like it's a different age, man. A lot of that original stuff is on streaming stuff. Like I noticed that recently. Like me and my girl, we actually, I do prefer indie stuff, and I do prefer original stuff over Marvel and Star Wars, believe it or not. The reason I still love these properties, that's why we talk about them all the time. I'm a big fan of them. But when it comes to like, if I want to have an intellectual conversation about film and stuff, I'm probably not going to talk about those movies. But I have noticed like a lot of the great indie stuff or the great original stuff is on not Disney Plus, sorry. It's on Netflix, it's on Amazon, it's on HBO Max. So it might be a new day where we just like, maybe the studios should just start owning movie theaters, and they just start putting Marvel, DC, or Star Wars stuff out, and either the original stuff has their own theater, or we might just have to get used to watching it at home, and supporting it. It's sad to say, but at the same time, I feel like the studios have the budget to pay at least the actors and the directors the right amount of money that they would, even if it wasn't in the movie theater. And we still should support it regardless of what platform it is, if you're a fan of film or just creativity in general. But I sadly think that's where it is, because Marvel and DC and Star Wars, it's like an event when you see these movies now. It's like going to a sporting event. You feel that energy. You feel you're wanting to root for the good guys, and you got your theories and stuff like that. You're not really having that same energy with original stuff, but you're feeling a little bit more optimistic. Like, okay, where's this going? But you don't have that same vibe. So I don't know. I would love to have that same vibe with these original contents, but I do kind of think it's a different age. But if this is what you want to see, don't 100% blame the studios. Go out there and support it. And then if you like it, tell the world. That's basically why Everything Everywhere All at Once skyrocketed. It was word of mouth, because they weren't getting the same. They were not getting the same promotion as everybody else is.
It's like, thank God for the studio A24. They just consistently put out good stuff. But to Ian's point, and I think this is something that he keyed in on that I think is kind of the most important takeaway that I got out of this, is Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you go opening weekend, maybe the theater's full. The energy is not the same. When you go see the newest Marvel, the newest Star Wars, they know that these are quote unquote event films. So they drive a level of excitement with the fandom. You know, when you go on opening night, you're going to be in a theater packed full of fans, similar to a sporting event. So I think that's a really good point, is like the hype just isn't there for a lot of the smaller movies. You look at it and you're like, I could probably watch that at the house on streaming with my lady or with my family and still enjoy it, where like you gotta see the new Marvel movie in IMAX. So I think that's an important distinction as well. I think that's a good point.
That's definitely a good point, because to that point, like the most recent Marvel event movie, Doctor Strange, when we all went opening night, and then we saw
That was a moment.
When we saw the guy, Mike, the guy who's Mr. Fantastic, I forget
Mike Raj.
Yes.
No, not Mike Raj.
No,
talking about John Krasinski.
John Krasinski. Yes, sorry.
Mike Raj.
Sorry.
The smartest man alive. Bullshit.
I'm so sorry. When we saw John Krasinski, I can't even say his last name.
Just call him Jim.
Johnny K.
Jim,
Yeah, Jim.
When we saw him pop up on the screen in my theater, and I have a feeling they just watch fandom too. They was like, "Oh my God, my theory is correct. He's Mr. Fantastic, and his wife is Invisible Woman." And I was just like, "Wow!" Like they actually really went there. I was more surprised. I wasn't expecting that, but they actually went there. So, to their points, yes, it's an event movie. Same thing with Spider-Man: No Way Home. When Daredevil had 2 lines, he showed up. My theater went nuts.
Yeah,
they just went nuts because he was there. So, yes, I understand that. These are more event films, but to Ian's point, you know, like if we have to make the effort to go see those things and support those things and say, hey, a movie like Everything All at Once, that's a great movie. We should see more of that. And I do agree that once we get further on down the line, most of that original stuff is going to be on HBO Max and Netflix and all this other stuff. By the way, slight criticism for Netflix. They have a lot of content, most of it original content. They do a terrible job promoting that shit.
Yeah,
because I would not know most of this stuff if I just didn't go on it and
Agreed.
look myself. So yes,
no, it's I think I agree with you 100% when it comes to that. Like sometimes you really got to dig for the stuff. To me, me and my girl, we have to go to like websites or like even some of these YouTube channels that show you where the good stuff is. Now, sometimes they do good promotion, like say Bird Box. I love the memes with that and like the challenges and stuff like that. Yeah. That right there promoted the movie, you know? So, I mean, more stuff like that, but it's also got to be a good movie too.
Yes, it has to be a great movie. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Hollywood's lacking in original content? And do you think that they're just more familiar, or they're more comfortable with more familiar content? Just jump into the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. Now, that's the end of our questions for today, but I want to ask the guys real quick. What did you guys think of the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan? Before y'all answer real quick, though, for me, I love the first episode. The second episode was okay. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but that first episode, though, I feel was like this is Star Wars for me. But what did you guys think of Obi-Wan's first Raw on Disney Plus?
Well, to me, it's flipped. I liked the first episode and I love the second episode.
Agreed.
To me, I was like, when they introduced, spoiler alert, Princess Leia in there, I was like, can they do that? But then I, went back in my head and I was like, wait a minute, they actually can. She was never on screen with Obi-Wan. So I get it. That was very clever how they did that writing, because like now it kind of branches the original, the prequel series and the original. I like how they did that. So to me, when I was growing up, that was always a weird thing. Like, this is the most random interaction. How is this old man linking these two brothers and sisters? This is a huge universe, but now it makes a little bit more sense. What I didn't like about the first episode, though, was how Power Ranger-ish it was to capture the Princess Leia. Like these 5 grown men chasing this little girl couldn't catch her. Really, like it was.
There's a tree in the way. Oh my god! I gotta go.
What can I do? This is so like y'all could have did better with that. That was I couldn't believe that actually made it. So that right there kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, but I forgave it because I like the other stuff. The second episode, though, whenever I forgot the black lady's name, but she's
badass.
Yeah, she's badass, and I understand. I think with my theories where this is going, I understand why she feels that way. But I loved it. I loved the second episode a lot, and I like where it's going.
What about you, Jeremy? Did you see the first 2, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, it's Star Wars. Now is like, I don't want to be the entitled fan, and I'm not. I know that it's not everything is not specifically for me. Star Wars is a family franchise. Most Disney franchises are family franchises. So I imagine if you're a father and you've got a daughter the age of Leia or in that ballpark, I imagine this is a whole nother level of like special and meaningful, and it's something you can experience together, and then decades later the daughter can look back at it fondly of some memories she shared with her, you know what I mean? So like there's a family element to a lot of the Disney stuff that doesn't always work for me. I kind of wish it was a little more hard-edged, a little more gritty or whatever, but I also understand that that's not really what the property is. It never was. It was never that. So I'm just kind of imposing my expectations onto it. So that said to say, Owen Wilson, Obi-Wan, as portrayed by why can't I think of his name? Ewan
McGregor.
Ewan McGregor,
yeah,
is easily the best part of the prequels.
Definitely.
So to Ian's point of taking the old Obi-Wan played by Alec Guinness and then mixing that character with Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan that we've seen in the prequels, kind of bring these two worlds closer together, make the aesthetic seem more cohesive. Like, I really like all of that stuff. I think Ewan McGregor's giving a great performance so far. I like the kid that plays Leia. I think she's a cute actor, and I like the personality that they've given her. She's a snarky little smart princess who is clearly like more interested in things other than just being a princess. So I like all that stuff. The Inquisitors, I'm not so sure about yet. I know they're like a Clone Wars thing, and I'm not familiar with them. The black girl who is kind of I would say the main antagonist of the series,
because she's awesome, but I forget her name.
I feel like she is a little, and maybe it's going to flesh it out more, but I feel like she's a little just too evil. But I also know that that's again kind of what Star Wars is it's this epic saga of good versus evil. So
do you think they're hinting that she was one of the younglings that Anakin almost killed but maybe turned to the dark side or something like that? That's the only theory.
That's the vibe I got.
That's the vibe awesome. I got. If that's actually what happened, I can believe it, because then that means she was groomed as a child.
I did not think about that, and that is a really cool theory. I think that's awesome. If that ends up being what it is, that will make a bit more sense of it. And yeah, the chase through the woods was her
name is Reva, by the way.
Reva?
Sorry.
Reva.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. I was surprised she just killed that Inquisitor right in front of plain sight of Obi-Wan and Leia before knowing that she was going to be able to catch the two of them, because that's going to open up all sorts of problems moving forward, which obviously, again, is kind of the point. Oh, I thought it was cool that Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers had a really major role in the series.
Oh, yeah. Needles, right?
Yeah.
Needles from Back to the Future.
Yeah. So this was fun. I really enjoyed it. I think so far it's off to a really good start. I think the show looks great. There's one thing that I actually heard John Campier criticize: the miniature work, the model of that outdoor not market, but where they were cutting the meat, where we first meet Obi-Wan. As the camera pans around, it's very clearly a miniature model. and then it's the set. But I thought that was super cool. Just the fact that they're still keeping it true to this practical effects of the original is super neat. So I can overlook little, you look at the aliens and you're like, oh, that's clearly a rubber mask, but it doesn't take me out of it. If anything, I enjoy the fact that they're keeping it true to the spirit of the original. So yeah, all in all, I'm a really big fan of it. I hope that it is able to have a little bit more emotional depth than what we've gotten out. Like Disney Star Wars is very cutesy. Grogu in Mandalorian, you're either in or you're out. And for me, I would rather it focus on the other side of the spectrum more than the like child rearing side of the spectrum. But we'll see how it goes.
And all those fellas too, like Boba Fett, they can always just bring in the Mandalorian to make it work again. Even though he's probably a kid in this time.
The best episodes of that show was when Mandalorian was on screen, unfortunately. But I agree with Jeremy. I really enjoyed the show for what it was, and hopefully that element that he's referring to, we're going to see in Andor. Possibly the latter half of Obi-Wan, and then maybe this show called The Acolyte coming to Disney Plus.
Andor looks good.
I hope we get that element you're talking about, because I want to see them go a little bit more darker. But that is our take on Obi-Wan episode 1 and 2. I'm sure we'll be reviewing the latter half of the season, but I want to thank you guys so much for being on the show. Jeremy, Ian, thank you guys for coming back. Where can we find you now on your new YouTube channels, our new YouTube channel names?
Pop Culture Nihilist. Check it out. It's the same channel, all the same content, but just Google Pop Culture Nihilist and it'll pop up.
Awesome. And what about you, Mr. Ian? Where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
I'll make it easy for you. It's my daggum name, Ian Elliott Carter, on YouTube, and on Instagram it's Ian Ellie Cart. It's just breaking my name down a little bit smaller, but
that's EYANELLEOTTTKARTYR. Ian Elliott Carter. Sound it out.
So yeah, don't do that. My channel is for people that graduate high school. So
what?
Yeah.
Wow. And
check me out, man. I don't have a lot of new stuff recently, but hopefully this will promote me to want to do some more stuff, because hanging with you guys and other content creators, it does motivate me.
Oh, definitely. We're definitely going to do this again. So I can't wait to do this. And I'm glad that I was able to do this with these guys, because doing this with these guys keeps me motivated for doing more stuff like this and also future content down the road. So you know where to find us here, guys, at Momentum Media. We have not changed our name just yet. We probably won't, but but thank you guys so much for watching this episode. And if you're at home listening on Spotify, we do appreciate it as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We get all the updates of every time we're putting out content here on Momentum Media. Yes, we are back, and there is so much stuff that I'll be putting out. So thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, you guys, you have a blessed day.